There are a lot of people who become successful just by being lucky. But I think market has changed. It's getting a lot harder and harder. Important decision making at different point of time, different period, different situation can just lead to an extremely different outcome to a tune of 10x, 20x. And key to decision making is
Arthur Cheong, founder and CIO of Defiance Capital.
One of the leading liquid crypto funds in the world. He is a prominent thought leader in the crypto space.
Shaping the future of decentralized finance.
people are willing to throw millions of dollars to fund an idea on AI side. That is why it's so powerful, because you have free experimentation of what you can use AI for, and combine with money, tokenizing it, some of it, you're gonna get some crazy outcome eventually.
What's a very good return for a fund to be considered as one of the best?
At least over the 2 to 3 year period, you should be able to outperform Bitcoin.
What does that mean? Outperform Bitcoin significantly?
Say over like a 2 year period, Bitcoin is doing like 100 to 200%. We want to be doing 300%, 400%.
What did it take for you to get back on your feet and make a huge comeback in 2023 and 2024?
I think it's really driven by a sense of belief in yourself and the never-ending desire to prove to yourself that, yeah, you can do it.
How much is mental flexibility important, both as a builder and an investor in the space?
I think what separates the great and average investor is being able to have a good judgment to decide when to be flexible and when to stick to the courses.
How do you train judgment?
Okay, there is a way to train it, but I don't have an answer to that. I think that's why Elon Musk is worth 300 billion and I'm not.
I think you'll be fine too. 75% of you that watch this channel frequently do not subscribe. If you like this show and think it provides value to you in your crypto investing journey, can you please do me a favor and subscribe to this channel? Hit the like button and leave a comment below. It helps this channel more than you can imagine. The bigger the channel, the bigger the guests, and the better the conversation. Thank you. This conversation is supported by Jupiter, the most used decentralized trading platform on Solana and the largest DAO in the world. Sui, a scalable layer 1 blockchain that's fast, secure, and affordable, built by previous Facebook developers, and that delivers the benefits of Web3 with the ease of Web 2. And Mental, an Ethereum layer 2 that built 2 products I particularly like. FBTC, which enables you to borrow and lend Bitcoin in DeFi, and METH or METH, one of the largest ETH liquid staking protocols that, by the way, just launched its token called Cook. The problem when you live in Asia is you can go to beautiful places for much cheaper, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's so crazy. I got like a mega sunburn. 10 days I was like suntan, then putting some cream, and the 11th day I put some cream, but I got mega sunburn, like so red, like a lobster. And I needed some aloe vera, and it was $56 for a bottle of aloe vera, and you have no choice, right?
Because
everything is so expensive, right? Yeah. So we're like, oh man, I don't know. I don't really know what to think about it. It's beautiful, but
it's kind of like
we need another bull market.
It's a kind of like you go there for the VIP treatment. Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah, you go for like private island. This one resort own the entire private island, and that's it. That's the deal.
But
yeah, no escape.
That's the Arthur Cheong way.
No, that's almost
private island or bust.
No, almost all of the.
No, but it's true.
5-star restaurant, no, hotel. They're exclusive. One private island is exclusively.
I mean that's it. That's what you do, but you just end up like, I don't know. Maybe I'm too Swiss, or I just like to find. I don't mind paying, but I like to pay value. You know.
Yeah.
Always like for what you pay, what you get.
Yeah.
And if you travel a lot, or if you live in Asia, there is so many places where you're like, man, I can't get like affordable luxury in Asia, right? Yeah. And I go to Maldives and I feel like I'm being ripped off. Yeah. Everything I have.
Oh, but there is one advantage of Maldives, which is the pristine water. Like in Asia, there's not that many other places that the water is as crystal clear and as pristine as Maldives.
Yeah. True.
Especially if you are someone who like to dive. Like, I think in Asia, only Sabah, some part of Sabah and some part of Philippines have the water that's as crystal clear as Maldives.
Yeah. True.
Like Bali and Phuket is dirty as fuck to the water.
Yeah.
It's more for surfing, but not really for diving.
I go there for the good food.
Yep.
How are you doing?
Good. Yeah. I mean, nothing much changed since we just talked about it on Tuesday. Yeah, all good. Right now, the big thing for us is really just to building the great team, to continue to grow Defiance, be the best crypto liquid fund in Asia. Yeah. And right now, given we have the resources and the budget, we can afford to pay a bit more. So right now I really optimize for having the best talent for all the different respective role. In Defiance. Yeah.
How do you do that when you live in an industry where it's so fast paced and people can make so much money quickly, right?
Yep.
Especially with the great talents.
Yes.
They tend to probably come for a while, which is not a long while, and then leave. And they need to rebuild the team.
Yes.
Probably the turnover is pretty high, especially if you're in the investing kind of sector.
Yeah,
right?
that is always the biggest challenge for the investing team. There's no perfect solution. The only way to mitigate this, not solve it, is to give them upside, for the success of the fund. Yeah, obviously what is enough, there's no right answer to that. It's always, subjective.
It's never enough.
Yeah. I mean, but again, you get some trade-off, right? You get some stability, in the bear market, you still get some decent salary. Yeah, personal account, if you lost money, then okay, yeah. There's so much survivorship bias on crypto. Everyone is making money, but there's a lot of people who lost money and they don't talk about it.
Do you want to explain the survivorship bias a bit more? Because it's something that, as you say, right, we just see, this person got rich overnight, this one got rich, but that's not the truth, right?
Yeah, of course it's not the truth, yeah. So that's really the main thing. A lot of role I need to fill. You haven't started, right?
We started.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah. No, so there's a lot of role I want to fill. So to really grow Defiance to be the best liquid fund in Asia. Yeah.
What does that mean concretely? It's just best return, best number, or biggest AUM?
Best in investing, professional, really know what we are doing. I don't define it by AUM, but obviously we want to be the respectable size. I think number one North Star is returns. Yeah, while sticking true to our investment approach and philosophy.
What's a good or a very good return for a fund to be considered as one of the best?
I think over a certain period, I would say 1 year is probably too short, but at least over the 2 to 3 year period, you should be able to outperform Bitcoin. Yeah, significantly.
What does that mean? Outperform Bitcoin significantly?
So let's say over a 2 year period, Bitcoin is doing 100 to 200%. Okay, let's say use 150%. We want to be doing 300%, 400%. Yeah, that is the goal.
How hard is that?
Depending on the level of capital you are managing, it can become, difficult but doable to extremely challenging. Yeah. So I would say at our level of capital, it become very challenging. Yeah. But still possible.
Dear When Shift Happens family, the following message is probably the single most important thing you should take away from today's podcast. If you're serious about your crypto investing journey, please take some time to learn how to self-custody your assets to make sure that nobody can take your coins away. Ever. If you don't learn how to be your own bank, it is very likely that one day you will lose all your hard-earned crypto. The safest way to hold your crypto is in a cold storage that we also call hardware wallets. Hardware wallets are not complicated and they give you peace of mind. I personally use a hardware wallet called Trezor. It is open source, very easy to use, and the first hardware wallet created ever. As we like to say it in crypto, not your keys, not your coin. You can order your Trezor wallet with a 10% discount by following the link in the description down below and by using the promo code WSH10. And now back to the episode.
We're in this phase of the cycle where everyone is trying to get rich overnight, right? With the next meme coin.
Yes.
The next AI agent, which by the way is also a meme coin. But the actual truth that comes straight out of Investing King's Arthur mouth is outperforming Bitcoin is actually very hard, right? And I think we really need to talk about that. You said the fund did well, right? Since we last spoke,
Yes.
This podcast maybe a year plus ago. We outperformed Bitcoin, which is really hard for a fund. Can you explain?
Yes. So most fund, I will assume are at least managing more than 10 million of capital. Probably somewhere between 20 to 30 at least. When you are managing this level of capital and if you're doing a fund, so there's different strategies. So we just focus on a liquid fund strategy. So there's a spectrum, I would say broad spectrum in terms defined by the turnover and the trading frequency. You're very high frequency, that means you trade on almost like a daily or weekly basis, or do those like multi-coin style portfolio turnover, very infrequent, probably they buy and sell every few months, or sometimes they hold a position most of the time over a year. So those are the two extreme end of the spectrum. I would say for all these, including all this strategy, when you are like managing 50 million, it's not, you're not gonna just hold majority in Bitcoin, because that's defeat the purpose of why investor give the money. If they can just invest in Bitcoin, they don't need to pay you the extra fee to invest in Bitcoin. So you're not supposed to just hold Bitcoin. But in the past few years, and I think this can continue to happen in the future, where we have a increasing Bitcoin dominance. In fact, 2024 was a year where you see a very high Bitcoin dominance and continuously climbing, which was exceeds everyone's expectation as well. Like nobody expect Ethereum to underperform so much. I think that was one of the big contribution to Bitcoin dominance. But even everything else, like even Solana underperformed Bitcoin last year for 2024, despite such a huge amount of growth measured by all fundamental metrics for Solana. For 2024, it actually underperformed Bitcoin. So, and that was already one of the most breakout project from 2023. So that illustrates how difficult it is. Like even for such a, I wouldn't say consensus, but you have so many things going on. Most of the new activities happening there. So much consensus, fastest growing, yet it still cannot outperform Bitcoin. Yeah, obviously we always have some small cap, all these things that but those are not something you can really put significant capital, at least not for fun. Yeah, so all these things just contribute to the difficulty of outperforming Bitcoin. Yeah, you can just look at the stats. I think probably 80% of the fund do not outperform Bitcoin. Yeah. Whether it's liquid or venture. Even we're just talking about liquid, 80% of them do not outperform Bitcoin. Rough number.
If you look at traditional finance, and instead of Bitcoin, you use S&P 500, I think the number I read is like 96%.
Yep.
So like 96% can't beat S&P 500 buy and hold strategy, right?
Yep. So
it's kind of normal, right? Which shows how hard it is to beat the market, right? That's the...
Yes.
And here we're talking about funds.
Especially the larger amount of capital to manage, it becoming significantly harder. Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense. But I would even argue, you might not agree with me, that even for individuals who have less capital, it's very hard to outperform Bitcoin.
I think it depends on whether you are full-time or you're part-time. I think if you're full-time, if your capital is less than 5 million, I think that's doable. In fact, I would say that is a filter of how good you are. Yeah. If your capital size is rough, 5 million is just like a rough number, and you should be able to outperform Bitcoin. But above that, I agree, it starts to become a lot more challenging.
When you say doable, it still means that the majority of the people cannot do it, right?
Yes. Yeah. I know a decent number of people who are sort of full-time, semi-retired full-time investing. They did not outperform Bitcoin last year because they are overweight ETH. Yeah. And a lot of the other layer 2 token, etc. Yeah.
And even people playing all this meme coin game or AI agent now, it's so easy to feel like you're being productive because you're just chasing the latest narrative or just investing in a bunch of coins and like, this is the thing, is going to make me... But if you calculate everything at the end, maybe after a few weeks, you're up, right? Or you are higher than Bitcoin. Maybe after a few months, you're still, well, very hard, very hard.
Yes.
For me, basically, I benchmark my portfolio against Solana since 2023. And I just like every time, I don't even try to trade much because I'm not a trader. But every time I get new coins, because of, I don't know, sponsorship deal or whatever. And it's supposed to be like good coins, right? I mean, I'm trying to do sponsors with like good brands.
Yep.
I just add it to my portfolio.
Yep.
And then I have more Sol, right?
Yep.
I wait a couple of weeks, a couple of months, I have less Sol.
Yes.
It's crazy. I mean, it's crazy. Like it just shows, and this is just Sol, which underperformed Bitcoin in 2024. So it means I really underperformed Bitcoin in 2024, right?
Yes.
It's so hard. And I've been in crypto for like 7-8 years, right?
Yes.
So I kind of like start to have a feel for things. But what does it say about the market that it's so hard to outperform Bitcoin, which probably was maybe less hard in the past?
Yeah. I think this is what everyone have expected a few years ago is finally happening. Market is maturing in one way. And mature doesn't mean that we don't go crazy on the degen and the speculative stuff. You still see meme coin going from 0 to 1 billion in few months, happens once a quarter in crypto. What I mean by maturing is probably the more efficient. People are very ruthless with selling stuff that doesn't work and moving to stuff that have the potential to work. So in that sense, the capital here are a lot more aware of opportunity cost nowadays. So you're seeing this in a huge number of dispersion. Like for some narrative, people recognize that this narrative is not investable. They just completely ignore that narrative. I think it might come back soon, but at least for the entire 2024, besides a short Q1 rally, crypto gaming have not done that well in general.
That's an interesting one, actually.
So even like when you look at the recent rally, November, December, the crypto gaming project did not really capture that much of the mind share, and also in terms of return, wasn't that impressive, except for very few outliers.
I think in general, one of the rules that works pretty well in investing in general, in crypto investing, is what people expect will outperform won't, right?
Yep.
Or when you think the market is going to go up, probably not going to go up.
Yep.
It just doesn't happen. And the narrative a year plus ago was social fi,
Yep.
gaming, AI.
Yeah.
And even AI is just a subsector that completely went nuts, right?
Yes.
But AI, there are so many people investing and VCs investing in AI coins that basically didn't do much.
Yes.
And probably won't do much, right?
Yep.
I mean, I don't know, but we'll see. And so what's consensus is never working, right? That's or rarely.
Yes, I think that's very true. And market have a limited amount of patience for certain things to play out. Like, you know, after a certain time, I think back in the days, crypto are a lot more patient in giving some narrative the chances, you know, like to prove itself. Like, okay, this doesn't work, I'll give you 1 more year, 2 more years. But I think right now, if I would say roughly within 1 year and there's still nothing to show for, people are getting a lot more skeptical of certain narrative and stuff. I think that's what happened in AI, because a lot of the other earlier AI narrative and projects, you know, was supposed to be promising, but almost a year, nothing much have been delivered to a level that's very impressive. So people, like, you know, have come move on. Yeah, I think last time people are a lot more patient. Like Ethereum took 5 years to move to proof of stake, and people are very patient with it. But you can see that even for Ethereum, the patience of the market and investor are not as great compared to 4 or 5 years ago when I joined. When I bought my first crypto in 2017, Ethereum was already preparing to move to proof of stake in 2017. They finally implemented proof of stake 2023 or early 2024, around there. So yeah, it took them 5 to 6 years to get there. I think now, if the same thing happen again, I don't think that's gonna fly.
Why should anyone listen to you?
No, I'm just sharing my view. I mean, everyone's feel free to disagree with me.
Before we move on to like kind of more specific conversation on how to outperform Bitcoin, because that's kind of one of the key themes of the day.
Yep.
I want to understand more about, you know, last time we talked, I mean, last time was probably, I think it was still in 2023, so it was about a year after.
Yes.
It was about a year after all the shit happened, right? But I mean, we were all still pretty hurt, right?
Yep.
Mentally, emotionally tired. You know it's gonna come back, but it takes so it's actually very fast if you think about it, 1-2 years, but it takes so long, right? Because when you get so hurt or destroyed by markets and by people, you stick, like you have your conviction and you know it's the right one, or you hope it's the right one, but then it takes so much time to play out, right? And to be proven right, which is what makes you feel better ultimately. So my first question is like on rebuilding, because that's what we've been doing in 2023 and 2024. What did it take for you to get back on your feet and make a huge comeback in 2023 and 2024?
I think it's really driven by a sense of belief in yourself. Yeah. And the never-ending desire to, prove to yourself that, you can do it. Yeah. And I think for me, especially, that is extremely validating to know that I can do it twice. I am likely one of the very few person that built a crypto fund from scratch to 9 figures twice. Also because that most people having done it once, they don't have to do it again. But for me, that unfortunately become necessary. So I think being able to do it twice under very different market condition and arguably a more difficult market condition just proved that I am likely pretty good at investing and building a crypto fund. So I think that is extremely validating. It's actually when it comes to investing, it's really like a professional sports. I would say almost all, a lot of the very rewarding financial activities is like a competitive sport. And if you are someone who like the game, you want to win. That's the hallmark of all successful athlete. And the difference, and one thing about crypto is the differences are actually compounded, whether it's being success and failure. Like a few important decision making at different point of time, different period, different situation can just lead to an extremely different outcome to a tune of 10x, 20x. Yeah. So one of our big supporter recently, he put out a tweet. He's our investor, and they are one of the best investors in crypto fund globally, L1D. So
They're based in Switzerland, right?
yes, based in
Zurich.
Switzerland. Yeah, Ray. He said that, I think he used like early 2023 to end 2024 as the duration to measure the difference between the top performing fund and the bottom performing fund are 17x. And this is funds. We're not talking about project. We're talking about fund performance difference. So the differences are just extremely compounded, whether it's being a good outcome or bad outcome. So like this is just it's a good scoreboard to know that you are still really good at what you do, and I think that's just extremely rewarding internally, intrinsically.
I would challenge maybe one thing. When you said I've done it twice, from what I hear about a lot of crypto stories, especially very successful people in crypto, it's actually very hard to make it the first time, to keep it, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, it's the when you say, it's amazing to realize that you're able to do it twice, absolutely, right? But it's also very important for people to understand that the first time you make it, you probably haven't made it. Some big traders, they say, paying your tuition to the market, right? Yep. You think maybe you're a bit like too good at what you're doing. And so the second time you're going to, I mean, and we can see it online also on Twitter, and like who is talking about numbers or not, basically.
Yes.
People who don't talk about numbers anymore.
Yep.
They're probably doing decently well, but they just don't want to talk about it anymore because they know, right?
Yes. Yeah. And in crypto, especially early on, getting lesser and lesser nowadays is there are a lot of people who become successful or make a lot of money just by being lucky and early. But I think market has changed. It's still possible, but it's getting a lot harder and harder nowadays. Yeah.
I had Wiki from Virtuals on the podcast maybe 2-3 weeks ago. And he told me about, I think you were also an investor in
Yes,
Virtuals,
correct.
right?
We are lead investor in PathDAO, which is before Virtual rebranded.
So he told me like they raised 15 mil at 600 mil valuation or something like that. I don't remember. Then it went down 99% and then back up like 500x or whatever the number is now. And he said like, I identify as a retardio because you have to go through that, right? And stay there, down 99%, then up 500x. Are you also a retardio?
I wouldn't use retardio, but I think that I'm really able to have the extreme risk tolerance that is not that common to most people. And able to not let it affect too much of my day-to-day side. And I think that is valuable.
Do you think you could live without that?
I don't think so. Yeah.
I feel the same. Like it's kind of an addiction, right? You're like, man, this is so good.
Yep.
I'm not sure how healthy it is, but it is what it is, right? How can someone develop enough conviction to stay during the inevitable, horrible moments that happen in and between every crypto cycle?
Yeah. So I think I've been in the space since 2017, and there is probably 2 to 3 moments where it is the moment where you ask yourself, is the industry still going to be here? Are we still going to make it? And I think those are the moments you exactly go back to the first principle. I mean, this is a very commonly used term right now, but I still think that this is how you can find your so-called North Star, a very popular term nowadays. Like, what really attracts you to crypto? Like, is it just purely making money, capturing on the liquidity? Or you think that there's something besides just making money in crypto? So I think that if you're able to identify those, for me, I know what I believe crypto are able to change. So I think those will eventually, will always create some sort of flaw in terms of how low crypto can go. And so that gives me a confidence that, doesn't matter how bad things are going to get, this industry is still going to continue to be here and likely continue to grow. Yeah, because the fundamental value proposition are just so strong that no short, medium term, or even some things can actually kill the industry and kill the idea. Yeah. This is like the idea of like what crypto really popularized is one of the most powerful idea, and I would say technology. I think we have seen in the past 20 to 30 years. Yeah.
What are these fundamental value proposition that make you, once you really fully grasp them, make you stay in a bear market?
Yeah. I think that it is really about I still stick to the current belief is crypto actually is good for a few very narrow use cases. It's not a very general purpose technology, blockchain in crypto, but in that few narrow use cases, it is extremely good because it reduces a lot of the artificial friction created by human. Like, okay, this is something that easy to compare, right? Like, anyone who's done a business or work in like different country before know that there's such a huge difference between the working culture, how the government make it business friendly, all this thing. A lot of the friction in the current world is artificial. It's actually all human social construct, which is why you see such a huge. Again, we comparing like there's a very popular chart comparing the GDP per capita of Eurozone and US. Before financial crisis, they are growing at the same rate, 2008 financial crisis. But after that, they have diverged significantly. US are growing way faster than Eurozone. And obviously, we can go on and on for all the reasons. I think most of your listeners know what's the reason. But yeah, that create a huge difference in return. I think crypto is just an even bigger, is a technology that create even bigger difference. It absolutely compound the good idea, the good product, the good people, but it just make everything are able to just compound a lot faster. Yeah, like stable coin, it's like has been able to grow in such a massive pace that because why? People want permissionless access to money and able to transfer cross-border, all these things. So it's a very narrow use cases. A lot of it is driven by speculation, but it's able to grow so fast. Despite some places is it illegal, it doesn't really matter because the fundamental idea is just so powerful.
Any other fundamental, specific kind of use case or idea that comes to your mind?
I think it's mostly revolved around finance, but there's something that's a finance adjacent, like fundraising, organizing, like around something that related to money. I'm probably not the best person to talk about it, but like Balaji, he is like big believer in network state, and I think that if network state is gonna be realized, it's not possible without crypto. You need crypto to realize the network state idea. Yeah, so like to coordinate human governance. So crypto and blockchain is really a combination of tech, a philosophy, a movement, and an idea. So it is a combination of everything. So I think what it can change is really on the social governance aspect, not so much on the day-to-day day-to-day normal people life kind of this stuff. Yeah.
Let's dive in and understand how to make it in crypto.
Yep.
Which, contrary to the belief, is not how to do 1000x overnight, but how to survive in the crypto investing game in the long term.
Yep.
And how to outperform Bitcoin. So let's start with a few of your views on some key ecosystems.
Yep.
The first one I want to ask, I'm very biased, obviously. Solana.
Yep.
What's your thought on Solana and Sol?
I'll start with a medium to long-term view. I think based on the current trajectory, very decent chance, I would say probably 50% chance. So will overtake Ethereum in market cap in 2 to 3 years. I don't think it's even controversial at this point. It's just because that there is a very clear objective of what the protocol is aiming for, scaling via hardware, and they are focusing on all the consumer use case because we have been building infrastructure for many years. So it's time for us to bring those infrastructure that has been built to target the consumer use cases. And then think this is what Solana has done very well and continue to execute on. And I think this is the phase where we are in right now. Like, yes, we still continue to invest and build infrastructure, but it's time to also bring it to the mass market and the consumer. So they're very clear North Star and they're executing very well. So I think that, yeah, and by a lot of the fundamental metrics, you can see that Solana have at one point overtaken ETH combined with the layer 2 metrics. Recently, it came back down because it's a very speculative, it's very reflexive. Activity on Solana is very reflexive. But if this continue to compound over 2 to 3 years, I think within 2 to 3 years, I think that it's possible that Solana can overtake ETH to become the most valuable smart contract chain. Yep. On the short term, I do think that there is a lot of gains that happened over the past 2 years. They need to be digested. So I'm putting on my trader hat here on a more short-term basis. Like there's just too much unrealized gain that need some time for the market to digest before it can go to another level. Like market always needs some time for a transfer of like a different cost basis. Like the early Bitcoin holders who are in like less than $100, they will definitely start to take profit and 10,000, 1,000. It's the same. Every different level, you will get the transfer of ownership. And for every asset, that need to happen as well for it to get to the next level. So I think this is a phase where Solana is undergoing a transfer of ownership. The early people who are up few thousand X, 10,000 X, a few hundred X, they start to take profit, and then you get a new holder base that come in and willing to buy it at like 150 to 200 range. So they built a different cost base, and that built a better base for Solana to go to the next level.
What's the next level for Solana?
Yeah, I think that really depends on the ETF. Is it likely to get launched soon? How fast is it getting launched soon? How much resource the institution put behind it? Is BlackRock going to join to file for Solana ETF? Because so far we have seen like 2 to 3 filings, but those are not the major asset issuer. If BlackRock is also filing for Solana ETF, that looks very different. So that changed the equation a fair bit. Yeah, I think that if the ETF can actually launch by Q3 this year, and we see big asset manager like Fidelity and BlackRock also joining to file and issue a Solana ETF, ETF, I think that will be very bullish. Yeah, but there's also, everyone talk about it, huge unlock happening in March. I think that sometimes there's some path dependency here. If that unlock happened at a time where market is very weak, yeah, in the short term that will cause some pressure. But if the unlock happened at a time where market is actually very bullish, I think it doesn't matter.
It's kind of what happened a year and a half ago, a bit less.
Yes.
Everybody was like, yeah, there's the FTX overhang and all that stuff, and and the Solana just pumped like crazy, right?
Yes, exactly.
Back to what we were saying before, when everybody's acknowledging something too much, usually it doesn't happen, right? Or it was already priced in.
Yes.
Actually, it's Chris Berniski who was saying like the last 2 months, like probably the weakness in Sol. I mean, you're saying it's like the change in hands, but also he was saying these unlocks. probably happening earlier than people think. And then when you're going to say, now it's the unlock time, probably it's going to be done already.
Yep.
It could.
Yeah.
How do you denominate your fund? In Bitcoin, Solana, dollars?
We denominate in dollar.
On dollar, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Even internally for yourself to think, because we said before, the goal is to outperform Bitcoin,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
We denominate in dollar, but yeah, our aim objective is to outperform Bitcoin. And eventually a combination of Bitcoin and other top crypto, index of Bitcoin and other top crypto assets.
You mentioned Solana with 50% of kind of chances to flip ETH in market cap. What's your view on Ethereum? I mean, you told me we're not bullish on ETH. Why?
Yes. I think that the way that Ethereum has been executing on the technical roadmap, in a way they have never changed. But the problem is the market and the industry have changed. We are, after so much experimentation and innovation, I think that market is settling on the acceptable spectrum of the trade-off between performance and decentralization. So I believe you just had Hasib on the podcast, right? He published a great article a few years ago on decentralization actually matter less than you think. It's actually more for censorship resistance, not decentralization for the sake of decentralization. So I think the question we should ask about when we talk about decentralization is this level of decentralization sufficient for the level of censorship resistance we want? I think that Solana is getting there, have a very obvious pathway to get there. So if you're already sufficiently decentralized, what you care about, it should be optimizing on performance. And Ethereum doesn't have a very clear path to get there. Its pathway right now is delegating all the consumer adoption, the usage and growth to the layer 2. That is the roadmap right now. But the key challenge of that is I don't think the success of layer 2 means that success get translated to the success of Ethereum, at least not on a one-to-one basis. When you look at the logically, right now, at least, yes, you have the blob fee are increasing, but most of the fee captured by the layer 2, they are only transferring a very small percentage of that to Ethereum. So there's a very fundamental part of it. I agree also that those are probably not what make any layer 1 go up. It's ultimately it's actually really on strengthening the monetary premium of the native asset, which is ETH itself. But when you have so much layer 2, and even many layer 2, especially I think Base is going to enable account abstraction using USDC to pay for gas fee. So in that sense, if let's say in the next 2 years, Base or some other layer 2 become extremely successful, onboard many users, they allow the user to pay for gas fee in USDC. So your attachment to ETH as an asset is actually very low. Like, yes, the layer 2 technology is great. I use Base, I use Aerodrome, etc. But why do I care about ETH? Yes, it's a base layer, but it's just that we're using internet, mobile phone. Do we really care about the backend infrastructure? That the further remote from the end user, the less that the end user is going to care about that infrastructure and the native asset behind it, especially if they don't even need to pay for gas fee. So if going by the layer 2 route, what that means is Ethereum need to focus on strengthening the monetary premium of the ETH as an asset. But yet right now, they are also having a lot of internal debate that is that the route they want to focus on and go down on. Like, don't care about the paying for gas fee, those doesn't matter, but we want to continue to double down on the value proposition of ETH as the pristine asset collateral and the one with the highest monetary premium in crypto. But yet a lot of the technical upgrade they push out kind of reduce the monetary premium of ETH as an asset. There was some they want to change the issuance of ETH, they want to reduce the staking reward. This have not been implemented yet, but I think there were a decent number of discussion on the ETH research forum on they want to do that. And that actually will affect a lot of the DeFi applications and all this thing, but they don't really care. At least there's a decent number of the ETH Foundation people that doesn't really think that matters. So even then, they have not been able to figure out what is the direction for ETH as an asset. Yeah. So I think And I don't see that changing. This debate has been happening for the past 6 months. It's still a debate right now.
I have 3 things to say about that. I'll start with Base. You talked about Base. I saw the other day chart. Obviously, I have no idea if the numbers are true, right? But it's kind of in line with what we were saying. They're saying that Coinbase gets, for every transaction or whatever, every $1,000, right? They get like 70 or 80%. Coinbase.
Yes.
And then there was another thing in between. Maybe Base itself. And then there was ETH. And ETH was like maybe 5%.
They also give it to the OP collective as well.
Exactly. So basically it's exactly OP. So basically it was a Coinbase like 70+%,
Yes,
OP,
correct.
Elon,
15, yeah.
yeah, and then basically almost nothing ETH, and you're like, oh, I mean, I don't know if this is correct, the numbers, but you're like, oh wow, okay, I understand what the problem. Then another thing I would say about Ethereum for me that really confirmed the problem. You're saying Solana, they have almost sufficient decentralization for what's needed, right? It was I think it was in Bangkok. During the ETH conference in Bangkok.
Yep.
And there was this talk by Eric Wall, and he loved ETH, but he says, I do everything on Solana now. And he's talking to these ETH developers, right?
Yep.
So the audience is ETH developers.
Yep.
And then you listen, so it was really a great talk. And then you listen to, he's basically triggering them and asking them questions, and you see the way they answer. They're completely not on our same planet, right?
Yep.
They're just like, the answers make no sense. Might make sense to we want to decentralize all that stuff, but it's so not practical that then you realize, oh man, if those are the people who are basically building Ethereum and the future of ETH and doing all this, they're so out of touch, right? They're just like not practical.
Yep.
Which is a mega red flag, right?
Yes.
And then when you said they don't really have a plan for like what they want for Ethereum,
For the ETH as an asset.
Yes.
Not Ethereum, but ETH as
Exactly. So basically, I had Gavin Wood from Polkadot, right?
Yep.
And it really reminds me, we talked for 3 hours, and he's a real one, right? Like
Yep.
he basically invented Solidity.
Yeah.
So, but you can see, and that's where I kind of like joined the Ethereum guys, which is, are you trying to build something that's really solid in terms of technology?
Yep.
And therefore it's going to take a lot of time? And then the asset is like the problem is it's all about incentives, right?
Yep.
And incentive is around money for a lot of people who come and build. Yep. And so what I really felt with Gavin was I was talking more about the marketing side, because like we know what we're building is really solid, and so I talked to the guy, like he's obviously a genius, and then I see the community who's like, he's going to do 10x, whatever. I don't know if he's going to do 10x. Maybe not. But like it's so disconnected, right?
Yep.
And so I really understand and respect the big builders who are very long-term driven. You have to, right? We have to understand the incentives and the prices, but like it's also very refreshing to see some people who are thinking about long-term, right? I mean, obviously you can say it's because they make so much money they don't give a fuck.
Yep.
Like maybe, right? But it's also like, hey, we're here with a certain ethos and so there's really this thing about where I see for Ethereum, where it's a mix of like, I feel like they don't understand, it's not practical at all. Yep. But at the same time, you can take their side by saying, hey, like the people who've been there building since the very beginning and trying to build like some really solid tech, the price of the token is not the thing that should matter the most, right?
No, yes, I agree. That is a good argument. It just means that ETH is not a good investment. But that's fine, and I guess that's fine for most of the community member. And I mean, and I don't think ETH will become a failure. I mean, ETH will still be successful by most metrics. It's just that it's not as an asset, it's not a good investment. Yeah.
So you mean like it's going to underperform, which is done already, right?
Yes.
Or you mean like at some point, because for me, like the logical question is what does ETH become if Sol becomes bigger? And
I think it will be there. So there's few ways that how Sol can flip ETH. One is just Sol is growing way faster. And just like ETH stay here, or like continue to underperform, like only go up, like let's say when Bitcoin is going up 50%, if it's going up 10-20%, happen over a few years, and then Solana catch up. Yeah, another one more bearish scenario is, which is not our base case, is actually Ethereum just keep going down, and then if Solana is catching up. That's not our base case. Yeah, like when you look at, like, let's say DeFi TVL, Ethereum mainnet still have the largest TVL that I don't think Solana can overtake that in a short amount of time. Yeah, but that is a current situation. Yeah.
We talked about Base, right? You said you're in bullish ETH, but you're very bullish Base. Why?
I think it's because they are able to leverage on the Coinbase resource to really onboard the user base. Coinbase have more than 100 million registered user. So that is a huge amount of user that they can tap on. And actually, when you look at the evolution of the internet, you are seeing that this happened in both the Silicon Valley and the Chinese internet industry, where everyone started where the tech mattered the most, but eventually it became the distribution channel that mattered the most. Which is why a lot of the big tech company in the US, what they do is they don't have to be the best in building the product. Any good startup build it, they will just, if they found that product actually have product market fit, they can immediately scramble a team to build something even inferior. They have a better distribution channel, and they can just acquire the team. So I think one good example is, a lot of people hate Microsoft Teams, but actually Microsoft Teams have way more users than Zoom right now. Why? It's purely because of the distribution channel.
They destroyed Slack also, right? Everybody was talking about Slack, but then you look at the charts and you're like, man, like this is incomparable.
Exactly. Like Microsoft Teams just have significantly a lot more user right now because of the distribution channel. So it's arguably not a better product, but the distribution channel is just so strong that it are able to, overtake the competitors. And I think that is what gonna slowly happen to crypto, where the distribution channel just matters a lot more. And then when you think about it, like, it makes sense because crypto is an open source technology. There's no moat in the tech itself because everyone can just copy your code and deploy something very similar. So the moat should actually come from not the tech, should actually come from the non-tech part of the business.
What are these kind of distribution channel that you're seeing now that could be huge in the future? I mean, Coinbase is one, definitely. What else?
Binance is still one. Anyone who have a crypto wallet that are, transferring stable coin. Like all the top crypto wallet, they are continue to be the top distribution channel. Unfortunately, they always have an issue on really monetizing it. But recently there's been some encouraging sign. One of the crypto wallet called Exodus, they just got listed.
Yeah. That's what
apparently they list at 1 billion plus market cap. I don't know what's
I think. Yeah.
I don't know what's the latest valuation. But that's pretty encouraging. And I know for a fact that Exodus is not the most popular wallet. I think and apparently it's being used by the more OG community, like at least not the new user. It's all about Phantom, MetaMask.
Yeah. So I had a friend trying actually Exodus, telling me, hey, what should I, like a new friend like trying to do crypto stuff, and she was like, hey, what should I download this Exodus wallet? I'm like, I've heard about it, but okay, do it. And then like 2 weeks later, they IPO, right? 1.45 billion. I'm like, okay, interesting. And then she was actually trying to make a transaction on it, but you needed ETH to do an ETH transaction or Sol to do, if you're a consumer facing app, or I'm thinking if you are doing an IPO, you're a consumer facing app. You should never ask people to have a freaking asset to pay the gas fees, right? But it's the case. So I don't know, it was kind of confusing to me. I was like, okay, they can IPO even if they're just not even taking care of like the UX that much.
I think it's the same as any other non-custodial wallet. Exodus wallet is like a MetaMask-ish kind of non-custodial wallet, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
I think the wallet continue to be a huge distribution channel.
How do you express your bullishness on Base when there is no Base token?
Our best way of getting exposure to Base is Aerodrome. We published a thesis on it a few months ago. We think that Base is unlikely to have a token anytime, at least anytime soon. And when you look at how the Base ecosystem has been incentivizing the liquidity, most of it is actually done via Aerodrome, which is why that Base has been able to become the largest L2 by most fundamental metrics. Is they're channeling a lot of the incentive to build up the liquidity for all the assets for Base via Aerodrome. So Aerodrome is the way we call the economic engine of Base. Yeah. So to us, fundamentally, Aerodrome is the best way to get exposure to Base. But empirically, obviously, Virtual is the best performing Base token by far. It doesn't even come close. Yeah.
I mean, depends when you got in there, right? Also,
Yes.
obviously.
Actually, Aerodrome done very well at the early part of the year, but recently it only done like a 3x, I believe. Yeah. So not that crazy.
Only.
Yeah. I mean, you compare Virtual, everything looks pale, right? Like, Virtual done like a crazy, like what, 50 million to like 5 billion, 100x in 4 months. Unfortunately, yeah, that's where people are comparing.
Of course.
Because your money is in Base, there's not many things you can buy, right?
Yeah.
They can buy Bitcoin, ETH, and then when you go down the token, the RC20, oh, you have Virtual, you have Aerodrome, and there's not that many things. At a few months ago.
How do you structure your portfolio in terms of layer ones? I mean, or main large cap Bitcoin, Sol, ETH, and kind of project app bets to ensure there's proper risk management strategy?
Yeah, so we go by sector and we do review and reevaluate these sector theses consistently. But right now, we think that given the current market condition, the best sector to allocate to are mainly just three: layer one, DeFi, and AI. So the other sector, we are still paying attention, but we think that right now, the three sector I mentioned just now deserve our capital the most: DeFi, layer one, and AI.
So layer one is a sector for you. Interesting. It's not like I have layer ones and then I have some apps on the top of these layer ones as a levered bet, right?
Yeah, I think that empirically have not worked out that well. I think it's probably due to the stage of crypto. Like even for Solana, you can see that only for very short amount of time, the Solana token can outperform Sol.
True.
And you need to nail the timing so well to really outperform Sol by investing in Solana project.
Yeah.
And their liquidity is just also not comparable. Like if you look at the top project on Solana, their liquidity is just so far behind Sol.
So we're going to talk about DeFi and AI, obviously. What's your main bet on layer ones now?
I think it continues to be Sol. Actually, besides Sol, the other one are not as obvious. We were quite bullish on Near because we think that they have the potential to become the AI blockchain. I think they are really working toward that direction. And I think we have some early promising result, but there's nothing that the consumer can interact with yet. So I think that is something that we need some time to play out, but not that much. We are very selective when it comes to layer one because we think that there's only going to be very few winners. That matters. Yeah, I think Sui obviously have outperformed significantly in 2024. We miss it. I think that it's just something that unfortunately we didn't manage to pay enough attention to it before the prices went up absolutely crazy.
Let's talk about DeFi.
Yep.
You were mega bullish on DeFi from July 2024 onwards?
Yes.
Why?
Yeah, again, we also published a thesis on it. I think it's a confluence of a few factors. First of all, people were really searching for real use case to invest in. And when you look at it, there's many different sector and area people have experimented on. No other sector have as much staying power as DeFi. People try metaverse, NFT, gaming, DAO, but none of them have made as much impact on the space beside DeFi. I mean, if you exclude layer one, because layer one is a base layer, DeFi is still the use cases that make the most impact to the crypto space and continue to produce growth and revenue. So I think that make it very compelling. The second factor is the interest rate cycle are changing. We went from a significant interest rate increase to decrease of interest rate since last year, and I think for the next few years the interest rate are going to continue to decrease as well. I mean, inflation dependent, but that's generally the expectation right now. And I think that, using the Gartner hype cycle analogy, we are right now on the path to enlightenment, because we know what works, what doesn't work. So we are building from a much stronger foundation. And when you look at, let's say, Aave as an example, most of their fundamental metrics is already above their 2021 all-time high. Yeah. And we are not even in depends on how you view. I don't think we're in a crazy phase of the bull market yet. That we are it's bull market, but I wouldn't say we are in a very crazy phase. But yet, Aave has already exceeded its all-time high fundamental metrics. Yeah.
And you think this will be reflected on the price of the asset? Or
Eventually, yes.
Do you think that, I have to challenge you a bit, because DeFi is arguably very boring, right? That's why for a lot of people in crypto who want always to chase the latest narrative, meme coin, AI agent, or DeFi is kind of this thing from last cycle. It kind of feels like.
Yep.
And it's not interesting. There's other things more interesting. Do you feel that you're biased towards DeFi because you did 100 or 1000x return on DeFi last cycle, and therefore you have a bias of or how do you deal with you probably have a bias, right? Because you did so well.
Yep.
So how do you deal with that, saying, especially knowing that, that's why I'm asking you, the price of for example, Aave needs to reflect the fundamentals.
Yep.
In theory.
Yep.
You say, no, it will happen, right?
Yep.
But as we saw in crypto, the fundamentals, and there's more than just, we're going to talk about that later actually, there's more than just fundamentals that need to be at play for prices to go up.
Yeah, there might be some bias, but I would say that we have actually kept it to a very minimal, because the fund for a very long period of time, for most part of 2023 to early mid 2024, is actually underweight DeFi. DeFi was a very small percentage of our fund until second half 2024. So if you are biased, that means we will always be owning a lot of the DeFi, but that's not the case. We identify the inflection point where the valuation have just hit nonsensical rock bottom that is just doesn't make sense compared to everything else in the space, and that is where we start increasing our DeFi exposure significantly. So I think that kind of shows that we might have some bias, because I made a lot of money in the past, but we are able to objectively evaluate that when it's not the best sector to invest in as well. Yeah. So I think that's one thing that I think that kind of shows that our bias are not as big as it shows. And I think second thing is, it's a last cycle narrative. People think it's boring, but when you look at the market participants are not all the same, right? There's always going to be the degen that want to chase a new narrative. They want to chase 100x, 1000x. But there's also a very decent number of market participants that want to buy something of real value, which is why Hyperliquid done so well, right? I mean, yes, Hyperliquid is a combination of a perp DEX, and a DEX with both perf and spot and a layer 1. But before the layer 1 launch, it's mostly a perp DEX and a spot DEX. And it gives you the best performance in the past 6 months. So I will argue Hyperliquid, at least during the period where you have the best performance, in terms of the DeFi element and the layer 1 element, is probably 70% DeFi, 30% layer 1. Some people might disagree with me because they want the valuation ceiling to be higher. But I would say that, looking at the project, 70% is DeFi, 30% is layer 1.
So you mentioned Aave before, right?
Yep.
Fundamentals that are higher than previous all-time high, but price not.
Yep.
You mentioned Aerodrome before, the how do you call that? Liquidity engine? Economic engine on Base. Hyperliquid, obviously we have to talk about it. You said you didn't farm hype, right?
No.
That's the interesting one. Because obviously, it's their game, and it's amazing for these traders who manage to make hundreds of thousands or millions or tens of millions of airdrop at launch. it's completely deserved. But the really interesting case is for people who didn't farm the hype token,
Yep.
bought when it launched.
Yep.
And which is what you did. And then what you also did was I kept buying. You said I kept buying hype on the way up,
Yes.
which is what a lot of these guys actually also did. They got these massive airdrops.
Yep.
Actually, I was talking about that with Wiki.
Yep.
He received like a really huge airdrop and he was like, I'm still buying, bro. I'm still buying. Like, I'm still buying. I need to go buy more.
Yep.
Like, and it's really this kind of community of like, literally autists who are like,
Yep.
it's so good
Yep.
that I need to buy more. So why did you buy at launch and kept buying on the way up?
We have been paying attention to the pub deck space for the longest time. And
Actually, you said on the last podcast, you said perp dexes are gonna 10x from here,
yes.
right? But it was so, and I had like so my main bet was Gains Network. Like I was looking at the fees and all the fundamentals and nothing fucking happened, right?
Yep.
But then, exactly, then there's this one.
So I think it's because people recognize that perp trading is one of the most profitable and largest business in crypto. I mean, Binance, how much all the top crypto derivative exchange make from, all the perp trading. It's obviously probably one of the largest business in the space. And we have always hoping for a decentralized alternative to tackle this space so that, power to the people, like you get a real decentralized ownership so that the revenue of these exchanges doesn't just go to the owner, which is making a few people very rich, but there's like probably less than 10 of them becoming super rich and all of us are just paying a fee. So, but unfortunately, none of the previous, none on the other project until Hyperliquid has be able to build that level of conviction and community to make people really believe in that dream until to this extent, until Hyperliquid happens. So I think that when we see that, we know that this business the TAM is huge for this sector. It's just which project can really make people believe that it's have a real pathway to disrupt the central exchange. And then I think when we see that Hyperliquid actually have so much believer and also a lot of the fundamental metrics, growing metrics to show for it, it kind of shows that, there's a real chance that Hype can disrupt the central exchange space. Yeah. So I think in that sense, you are looking at the ultimate upside is like 50 to 100 billion upside. Yeah. And also the layer one aspect of it. But that one we actually discount it a little bit because it's still too early. It's hard to see how the ecosystem will play out. So for us, we're actually mostly underwriting the perp dex thesis. Yeah.
So your perp dex thesis for Hyperliquid is 50 to 100
The
billion
bull case, ultimate bull case.
just on the perp dex size. So it without taking into account any layer one or potential valuation. That's very interesting.
And also, I think crypto project it can be, not very scientific, but there's always some mythical provenance on project who do a full fair launch to the community. Even though that you can argue, VC bring a lot of good value, there's a lot of good VC, absolutely agree. But if a project are able to just go against a trend, going full fair launch, it just gives such a provenance and the kind of social belief that's very hard to compete with. That make people, there's no VC that's gonna dump on me. It doesn't matter what value they bring in. Obviously, the downside is, the founder will have less capital at the beginning to build a project. They have less institutional support. But if any project are able to go against the trend to forego all this thing, go for full fair launch, they will be able to attract so much, community member. They just be okay. I'm not gonna get dumped on by any VC, and that's very powerful mental thinking that this is very powerful.
And even kind of deeper than that, what we're talking about with the wiki was not only it's going to have VCs dumping on me. I mean, the VCs could come in later and then dump, right? But this is crypto ethos.
Yep.
This is what we're all here for, right?
Yep.
And that's what's so strong. You're like, like it feels so good that you pay. Wiki was like, I need to go buy more, and I need to go buy more, and all the hyper liquid autists who made too much money with the airdrop, still keep buying more.
Yep.
And it's not even about the money anymore. It's about the ethos, and we finally have a team of people who are doing things the right way, which is what we've been waiting for all this time. And we have we're basically going to vote with our money on that's what we're doing, right? When we invest, we vote with our money, and we respect that so much that, where do I allocate my money? I'm going to allocate to pretty much the one project in the space, right?
Yep.
And there's a few more probably incoming that are following the crypto ethos, which is the reason why we're here in this space.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. And I think one thing that really convinced people that is the case, that, the team really does care about the community. He's not just to looking to cash out like 50, 100 million. He took the revenue that the protocol have accumulated to buy more hype
all the time
on the open market. Even right now, right? The hype assistant funds have bought like incredible amount from the launch to the beginning. And actually, I think that drove a lot of the price action as well. So right now, the hype assistance fund is sitting on like 200-300 million of hype. Yeah.
He was in your seat, and he was saying, if I want to make money, I just need to trade. I don't need this money.
Yep.
Right. And so when you're just listening to something like that, it's like, what? It was before the launch, so we still had to see if it was going to play out.
Yep.
But now everything basically played out, and you're like, these guys they just have the money already, and they're in it for something way bigger than the money, right?
Yep.
So it's kind of a no-brainer. What's your so you said 50 to 100 billion bull case just on the DeFi perp of Thesis.
Yeah, perp and spot DEX. Yeah,
not FTV, right? You mean
FDV?
FDV. Okay.
FDV.
Okay.
But the hype FDV is not a concern for us, because it's the supply will only come out to incentivize the growth of the protocol. So it's not automatic unlock when investor vesting starts. Yeah, it's a conditional unlock. So to us, we treat that very differently, because like most of the supply is not going to investor or team. It's actually going to incentivize the growth of the protocol. So in a way that is like is very different from like an automatic unlock. Yeah, from investors.
Another one you haven't talked about much in the DeFi space, but you're very bullish on, is Ethena.
Yes.
And the Ethena token. And for me, like when I had a guy last year on the podcast, they have an incredible protocol that makes so much money, right?
Yep.
But my problem with it is the opposite of Hyperliquid. You had all these VCs getting in like just 2-3 months before, and then like I had some people that really well on the podcast who didn't tell me during the podcast but told me afterwards. They were like I can say just before it launched, they were like, this is way too high valuation.
Yep.
And so it was the classic low float, high FDV. Then it got like punished by the market, and right, so people could kind of get back in. But for me, it's still, you see the difference, right? You have Hyperliquid making so much money but launched the right way. You have Ethena making crazy money but launched not the right way.
Yeah.
And so tell me more about Ethena.
Yeah, so I think Ethena, we didn't invest in any of the private round at all. We bought the token from the open market like everyone else. So I think that I agree with you. Obviously, it's a trade-off, right? And I think that it makes sense for most projects to take the funding, because you do need money to build, to hire the best people, to build a project. You need money. So that is still a very common path that most founders take.
You need to launch.
And I think one thing for Ethena, unfortunately, is for the game plan to ultimately work, you need decentralized exchange buy-in. So, and how all these people think, because I am Binance, I have to get in early. Else there's just no way you can get a deal done with them. So I think it's almost like a necessary evil for Ethena to raise from at least the central exchange, to get so that the central exchanges are vested in the success of USDE. So which is why they can get the Bybit integration, they can get the Deribit integration. I think there's a few other like BitGet. They're actually working on the remaining top few as well. So you need them to have a vested interest in your success so that they're willing to support you. That's how the world works. So I think it's a necessary evil. On the VC side, I think is to give the exchange a signal that, hey, we are a serious and legitimate project, so that the exchange are going to be willing to also buy into the idea. So I think that is a very stronger merit that why Ethena need to do a VC raise, like a private raise compared to most other projects out there. And yeah, the launch valuation, again, I'm not sure, or I don't know why the initial launch valuation was quite high. But yeah, I mean, market corrected, and then I think when it, at October, it came down to a very reasonable valuation. Yeah, and then that's where we, get a lot more excited at that valuation. So yeah, I mean, ultimately investing is a competitive sport, so you have to be good at the game. So if you think the valuation is just too high, and this is something you might want to avoid, and wait for a better price. You might not get it, but it's all about how you manage your investment process.
So Aave, Aero, Ethena, and Hype.
Yeah, I think that's the four most obvious one.
For DeFi.
Yeah, for DeFi.
The second vertical you like, I mean, you said third one, basically. Layer 1, but pretty much Solana, right? DeFi, we just talked about them. And now AI. Why is crypto AI a must play for any investor in crypto?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of fluff on the crypto AI part, but what I found the most exciting thing is AI is still at a very early phase. I mean, are we going to see AGI this year? I don't know, like some seems like possible. But crypto is the only space where people will throw money on a very crazy idea for experimentation. And I think that AI can actually accelerate faster with this kind of crazy idea. Like, people are willing to throw millions of dollars to fund an idea on AI side. On actually, not just on AI, on anything. And AI actually benefit a lot from many different kind of experimentation to see, what things work, what thing doesn't work. Beside the compute power, like, we have a very good LLM. What is the best way to use them? And I think that, if you look at a traditional company, they have been using it in a very predictable way of using these LLM, like, AI chatbot, ChatGPT, all this thing. But there's still a lot of things that we can explore to use such a powerful AI that they are not doing for, probably it's illegal or it's not socially acceptable, etc., 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 etc. And also government are paying a lot of attention to all these big AI company because they are perceived as the next big sector that will disrupt the world. But when it comes to crypto, there's no restriction. You can experiment at anything, right? So I think that is why it's so powerful, because you have, with so many free experimentation of what you can use AI for and combine it with money, tokenizing it, some of it, you're going to get some crazy outcome eventually. An AI agent is just like, I think the AI agent in crypto right now have probably growing faster than the traditional AI agent. At least I have not used any AI agent on a non-crypto perspective. Yeah. At least, all the AI I use is still, ChatGPT and all the stuff on the non-crypto side. But yeah, on the crypto side, you're starting to see a lot of, different AI use cases that's pretty interesting.
I'm interviewing an AI agent in a couple of days. I'm going to KL, interview Luna. Okay. So it's going to be interesting.
Nice.
It's going to be interesting. I don't really know what to expect.
Yeah, and right now, look at it. AIXBT have more than 200,000 followers.
I think 350.
350 now.
Yeah, like going crazy.
It took me, 6-7 years to get to 180,000.
Yeah.
And they have less than 3 months, has 300,000 followers and have so much attention right now. And no one can out-tweet him, because it's AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the key theses of Kiao Wang from Alliance is social tokens, right?
Yep.
Social token was supposed to be like a big thing, but it's very risky for a person to launch their own token. But an AI agent will do it because they don't give a fuck. So like the social token is actually kind of like being proven by the AI agents.
Yep.
I mean, these meme coin AI agents, right?
Yep.
It's a social token.
Yes.
Because they don't care. They just do, right?
Yep.
Worst case, it goes to shit, but they don't care.
Yep.
Just an AI, right?
Yep.
Whereas for us, it's different.
Yep.
How are you playing the AI narrative? You mentioned virtuals before.
Yeah, so
And Grass the other day you told me, right?
yes, correct. Virtual is obviously the leading AI agent protocol. They are the one that kickstart the whole movement in terms of the infrastructure, providing an AI agent infra for people to build on top. So that continue to be our top pick in the space. We also look at AIXBT, but we didn't do it because we are not too sure about the value accrual. I do know they are changing that, but when we look at it, there was just no obvious value accrual. So we think that virtual is a more more obvious one. Yeah, so that is our main bet on the AI agent side.
What's your
We also have
framework for AI for virtuals? What's your framework on how big this can get? How do you think about it?
I think it depends on how many successful AI agents that are developed using the virtual protocol. If you're gonna get more and more successful AI agent like AIXBT that are developed building on top of the virtual protocol, I think 20-30 billion in the next 1 year is possible.
So basically the same as Pump Fund was, how many of these meme coin launch on Pump Fund can launch on Binance, right?
Yep.
Get big,
Yep.
like 1 billion plus. How many of these AI agents can stand out? And actually I was seeing the last couple of days a lot of FUD about that.
Yep.
People saying, hey, no AI agent broke through except AIXBT.
Yep.
And even this AIXBT is using a lot of technology that's outside of the virtuals ecosystem. They just use virtuals to bootstrap liquidity. To be honest, I'm not like super technical on all that stuff.
Yep.
But like, how much do you think this is like FUD, or it's actually like something, because you are betting on virtuals as one of your two main plays for AI?
Yep.
How much do you look at that, right?
Yep. So I think some of it is true. A lot of the technology for the AIXBT is not, from virtual. But I think that also doesn't overlook the fact that, most of the AI technology are improving very rapidly. And virtual is also improving and changing very rapidly as well. Like, I believe the team have hired a lot of the new AI talent that just joined the team in the past few months. So they are going to make a lot of the improvement on the team. And sometimes having a first mover advantage, if they can maintain the first mover advantage, it's just such a powerful thing that, you capture the mind share, attention, all those things. So yeah, I think that makes virtual still very promising. Yeah.
They they launched a few years ago, right?
Yeah.
But they kind of got all the attention almost overnight.
Yes.
How is that possible? And what does it say about the mental flexibility that you need to have as an investor, and that the builders need to have as a builder, right? For example, they're really good at that.
Yep.
That's how they can capitalize that much on that, right? Because they're very flexible. Oh, now we got the narrative, we got kind of like right place, right time, but we need the right execution.
Yep.
How much is mental flexibility important, both as a builder and an investor in the space?
I think it's very important, but that is where I think what separates the great and the average builder and investor is being able to have a good judgment to decide when to be flexible and when to stick to the courses. I don't think there's a scientific way to analyze it. It's really come down to the entrepreneur's instinct and judgment. Yeah. So being flexible at the right time, but also stay through the course at the right time as well.
How do you train judgment?
I don't think there is a way. There is a way to train it, but I don't have an answer to that. Yeah. I think it. Yeah, I think that's why Elon Musk is worth 300 billion and I'm not. Right? Yeah.
I think you'll be fine too.
Yeah. Why he's able to build $4 or $5 billion company, and why most other people cannot even build one. And there's a lot of people as smart as him. Right? If you measure by pure IQ, education, upbringing, access to a network, but none of these people are able to build even one. Many of these people are not even able to build $1 billion company.
Let alone trillion, right? Tesla is in the trillions and probably a bunch of other.
Yes.
It's just, yeah.
And also influencing the election at the same time. This is, look at how much impact. I mean, you can say it's negative or positive, but
no,
impact he has made is just insane. One person.
I mean, this is completely getting out of like this podcast, but like just the fact of having so much further and criticism on buying Twitter, this changed the whole freaking course of everything, right? And the dude already has multiple multi-billion and trillion companies to run at the same time, but oh no, I'm going to buy that because I noticed that there is something really wrong in the way these platforms work. So I need to do something, otherwise no one else will do it. So I do that, and now I become part of the, Dodge department. It's crazy. And then there was it's not a meme, it's actually the truth, where he was saying he was playing I forgot the game, and he was like top...
Diablo 3.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you just like, actually it was the first few minutes on Joe Rogan, he was just talking about that. He was like, yeah, I'm actually... I do that to relax. I just play video games, or I play games to relax because I'm so focused that I don't think about anything else.
Exactly.
Which makes a lot of sense. I was doing, the other day in Maldives, I went to do some jet ski. And it's not extreme sport, but like, if you go really fast, you need to focus. Otherwise, it's dangerous, right? I felt so good afterwards, and I was like, why do I feel so good? Because I don't think about any fucking thing else than just the jet ski, right? So the whole thing makes a lot of sense. Obviously, if he says it, probably makes a lot of sense, right? I think the sentence of the day is like, that's why he's worth 300 billion and I'm not. Grass. What is grass? To be honest, I have no idea. I've heard about it so many times, but there's too many things to look at. What is grass, and why?
I'm not the best person to explain it, but when you look at the valuable part of AI sector right now, a big part of it is data. Why? It's because a lot of the public information that could be scrapped to be used to train the LLM, large language model, has already been taken. Like, because they go through the entire public internet, whatever useful information, the Quora, Reddit discussion, the art news, like informative article, all this thing, they have digested, used it to train their model. So almost all the model, they have roughly the same access to this public information. But so what makes model B, LLM B, better than LLM C is they're moving to the private data phase right now. Like, do you have access to some private data that's not on the public domain, that give you a more, better understanding of the different information situation. And this is what Grass can provide. Like, they use a very classic DP encrypto method. Everyone can install a browser extension. You can start using your bandwidth to scrape some of these, they call it live context retrieval. Some of the live data. It's not just stale data. And these data can be used to for the AI, the LLM, to train their model better. And all these are new data, live data, like new videos, new YouTube videos, new whatever. And if you doing it as a company, as an enterprise, a lot of these, company, they are actually restricting the API access right now because they don't want the commercial company to scrape the data. But if you're as a retail, you can click the YouTube video how many times you want, all this thing. So he's using a very classic crypto decentralized approach to collect all this data and monetize this data. So from a fundamental perspective, it makes a lot of sense, because without crypto as an incentive, a token, it's very hard to have a group of few 100,000 retail computer gathering all this data that are useful for AI to train their model on. If it's just much more scalable, like effective way of collecting all this data from a few 100,000 different PC. And these data are valuable. Like the AI company are paying millions of dollars, like tens of millions of dollars for this AI data right now. Like, you look at Reddit, you look at Quora, they all have like a private data sales arrangement with the top AI company right now.
So we talked about a few of the projects. The main project that the main kind of narratives, right, that or sectors that you're betting, a few projects by sector. We talked about judgment, that is very hard to kind of train, but very important when making a decision. As an investor, the decision is, what do I invest in, at what moment, and with which size. And before, you mentioned this Swiss fund who said that the difference between the fund performance is 17x, and it's 100% due to that, right? My judgment, and what do I take as a bet? and what's the size at what moment. So I'm trying here to help people understand the few elements that you think about when you make a conviction play, right?
Yep.
What are the different elements that you need to see combined? Usually that's what we call judgment, right?
Yeah.
But if you had to like split judgment and saying, actually, I need to have these 4 or 5 or 6 elements, more or less, together, where I have my aha moment saying, this is the next big one, I need to go in size.
Yep.
What are these? I mean, I wrote a few here, and then you can maybe add. I wrote fundamentals, mindshare, founder, team, narrative, and then I also added macro context, bull market context, where we're at, right?
Yes, correct. Those are all correct. Yeah, those are all the factors that we look at. Yep. But the thing is, everyone will come to a different conclusion, even when looking at the same data and same information. Yeah.
Can you take an example? For example, Hyperliquid, they launch.
Yep.
What are the few key factors that you look at, you say, this is a no-brainer bet for us?
I wouldn't say it's no-brainer, but I think that what makes the risk-reward extremely compelling is, I think the main concern for most people is, there's a 1 billion worth of airdrop and people are going to sell the airdrop. And historically, most people do sell the airdrop. But I think what most people don't realize is like, those are why people sold most of these airdrop is because they don't really believe in the project. And they are farmed by these mercenary farmers. For Hyperliquid, obviously it's hard to tell, I think there are some mercenary farmers, but apparently it's getting very hard to farm the points from 2024 onward. Like most of the people with a lot of points are they've been using Hyperliquid since 2023. So that reduced the risk of all these mercenary farmers selling their airdrop. And it's just, when you talk to more people, like obviously some of the biggest community members, they're actually buying more. So this almost never happened for any other project with huge amount of airdrop. People are actually all rushing to sell the airdrop. But this one, you have enough anecdotal big community members who are quite wealthy. They're actually buying more token at launch. So that it's a very different project and the airdrop is not an issue at like a 1 billion market cap. Yeah. So I think that was quite a key factor that make us able to be comfortable that 1 billion market cap, new project, airdrop, but it's still presenting a very good risk reward as an investment.
Plus, it's what was it, November 24, right?
Yes.
So the thesis was, hey, the cycle is not over.
No.
We have all of 2025. Did you look into the founder? Or not that much? I mean, because you're not much out there. I mean, I did a podcast with this, but like, except that, he's not much out there.
Yeah, actually, your podcast, I think, was the best one to understand the founder because he is pretty, focused on building. I don't think he come out that much, and I don't think he give out that much interview as well. So yeah, I think your podcast is the best source to understand the founder. I think, the founder matters. We know that he's a great builder. We know that he was a very successful trader even before he built Hyperliquid. So, he's not there looking to make a quick buck. So the founder is definitely top tier. And, there are so many pub decks that have tried and didn't really manage to take off. Hyperliquid is the only one that really managed to take off to a very big extent. So I think that already make a big difference.
One thing that we talked about during last podcast together was, I don't remember the exact kind of term, but it was in the last cycle with the 3 Arrow guys, Dokwoon, SBF.
Yep.
They're out there so much talking that you have this confusion on followers and engagement with building capabilities and talent and all that stuff, right?
Yep.
And you use a term for that. I don't remember what it was, but that we all kind of got tricked into that.
Yep.
At some point.
Yep.
We're like, these guys, because they have massive following and massive engagement, they're the gods, right?
Yep.
This cycle, what I noticed was, and what I'm really using as to kind of judge one of these, actually, I wrote founder team, but one of these kind of elements is how much are they on Twitter?
Yep.
How much they tweet? And how low key is the founder? Is doxed, he's there, but they're just locked in and they don't give a fuck about tweeting, right?
Yep.
But when they tweet, there is really good engagement.
Yes.
So that I was like, the Hyperliquid one, I posted the picture of the podcast. I'm like, what the fuck is that? Crazy. Like the community you feel directly. And another one, Kaito AI, right?
Yep.
It feels like, obviously a different, very different project, but it feels very similar. 20,000 followers. Doesn't tweet much, tweets more and more since like a month or two, but very low key, very humble, just locked in.
Yep.
And previous Citadel, Jeff was like this trader working for this trading firm. So it's just, there's a new pattern of like quality projects.
Yep.
And by the way, these projects are very profitable. That's also a key thing, right? Most crypto projects not profitable.
Yep.
You can only do something really well with your token if you're profitable, because you have more leverage, right? And one thing that he said yesterday, Yuhu from Kaito, that they took example from Hyperliquid is what you mentioned before, the fact that it's really hard to farm points. He said to collect the points. He said Hyperliquid gave us a really good example that it's okay for us to make it hard to earn points.
Yep.
And you have a combination of things where, I mean, for me, the using the social media as a very, in a different way than last cycle actually looks like it's actually one of the key elements here.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that actually, I think, yes, Twitter X is still the best platform for intellectual exchange when it comes to crypto and for ideas, information. But it's really about like, having the right amount of time spent there, right? Like if the founder is always tweeting, like how much time he's actually dedicating to building, right? But if he just doesn't talk at all, but that is also, doesn't raise enough mindshare awareness. So there's the right amount of activities there that will be good.
You told me the other day when we talked about that we had to talk about US elections. The US election result with Trump elected as president changed everything for crypto.
Yep.
Why?
I think that it's just because that we are going from an extremely hostile government administration from every aspect to potentially very positive treatment of the crypto. So that I don't think that kind of a structural change are fully digested by most non-US market participants yet. Yeah, and builders. Because it's very hard to imagine, and these things that it's hard to price in, because only people who have been through those process, been through those kind of negative and hostile treatment, know how bad it is. If you've never been through it, you don't know how bad it is. So imagine like an industry that went from an industry that the government are actually actively trying to suppress to actively trying to promote. Yeah. And we all know that, if a government want to promote a certain industry, that always helps, to, a lot of resources, you're getting so much access, you're not going to get, block on certain initiative and whatever. Yeah, we are going to get, you're going to see adoption of crypto go up in almost every aspect, institutional, retail, everywhere. And, the case of crypto as an asset class are just going to continue to grow because there's just a strong, establishment endorsement right now of crypto as an asset class. So that reduce the risk of many other, be it retail and institutional players in US to get involved in crypto. And humans are very social animal. Like Mark Zuckerberg, he went on Joe Rogan podcast. He talked about, all the previous censorship was just too crazy. Like, it forced us to censor all the truth. And I mean, he probably felt that the whole way, but he couldn't, and he wouldn't dare to voice that out under the previous administration. Like, why he chose this timing to do so? Because you're going to get Trump as a president that say, anti-wokeness and all this thing. And yeah, he finally felt that he's able to talk about all this thing. Yeah, he has so many times to talk about all this thing. He only do it now. And which is just a human, is just such a social animal that people only do it when it's actually socially acceptable. Yeah.
Except one or two.
Yeah, except a few outliers, mavericks.
Yeah, which again, people can, hate on Elon or whatever, but I don't understand why. Like, the guy is the one who just not only raise his voice, but changes things. And you have other people like Mark Zuckerberg who are also worth, I don't know, like $70, $80 billion, whatever. Probably could do something, right?
Yep.
So, but don't do it.
Yep. Yeah.
For me, it's going to be very hard to not judge the dude. Bro, really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's great. People are like, yeah, it's great. It's coming. And bro, like really, like,
I mean, it's still better than nothing, but
yeah.
yeah.
No.
Yeah. And I think that because US is still and likely will remain so the most powerful, biggest country in the world by GDP, it's gonna lead in many aspects, and many other countries are gonna follow, whether openly or under the radar, like to follow US lead in crypto. So I think that whole structural change will take time to play out. So why like the next 4 years, which I still believe so, 4 years of golden age. I mean, the price will go up and go down, but in terms of an actual industry builder, this 4 year is a golden age. There has never been better time to build in crypto. If you're trying to build a serious business, serious project in crypto, this 4 year is a golden period.
You called what just happened the impossible scenario. Why?
Which
Yeah, so the other day we talked about that, and you said, man, like everything that happened just now was kind of like the impossible scenario. It was not supposed to happen, but it just all happened, and now we have the kind of golden 4 years.
So yeah, I think when you ask most industry participants 1 year ago, did any of them imagine this is possible? No one will say that. So because it's just like so out of everyone's expectation, like because crypto industry, yes, I mean there's been around for 7, 8 years, 10 years. It's still not a big industry, compared to banking, finance, all the other energy industry in the US. So no one would have expected crypto as an industry to be able to be so impactful in the US, in the election and the politics. And it happened. And it all actually, arguably, it started from a handshake between Ryan Selkis and Donald Trump. They invite him, there's the Donald Trump NFT thing. And yeah, and I know the Bitcoin Magazine CEO has been working with the Trump side for a while to build the relationship and build the bridge there. Yeah, that whole thing was less than a year ago. Like Donald Trump shaking hands with Ryan Selkis and then he attending Bitcoin Nashville, saying all the right things. It's less than a year, 6 months ago. Like before that, like the shift actually happened so fast. In the politics sense, it's extremely fast.
But he was smart doing that, but then he also felt the response on the other side, which is crazy donations and crazy support from the crypto community. Right? Nothing would happen without the crypto community being so responsive.
Yes, of course. Yeah, but it's just that no one would have imagined this level of friendliness and support from a future US president. Yeah, and I think that they are quite serious. I mean, yes, Donald Trump is a businessman. He's a pretty opportunistic person when it comes to business. But it's a public information. I think they were debanked from US as the entire family. A lot of their bank account was closed because of the indictment, all this thing, and not just Donald Trump, his family have their bank account closed. So they fully
that.
I think anyone who went through that episode, like fully make you realize that this is why DeFi matters.
Yeah.
Imagine that the former US president is on the receiving end of the banking restrictions. Yeah. And it's happening more and more. I mean, even in UK, you have like a very popular opposition party leader, Nigel Farage. He made a big hoo-ha drama that he got his bank account closed, and he said that it was politically driven.
I mean, the Mark Andreessen on Joe Rogan was so good.
Yeah,
where he talks about our choke point, all that stuff, but not only in the crypto context and the tech context, but also political context, right?
Yep.
And like it's just eye-opening for a lot of people who didn't really understand. Even for me, I understood like about the crypto side and maybe tech, but I was like politically how screwed the whole thing is, basically, right? And crypto is definitely one part of the answer for that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and I think one thing to add is like the impossible scenario is like not just like Donald Trump like putting a token promises that he's gonna help the crypto community. It's like when you look at the actual personnel decision, it's almost a best case player, right?
Incredible.
Like all the important personnel that he appointed, most are really pro crypto, and they did not do it just after Donald Trump is elected. They've been saying that even before, like Donald Trump, is elected or like was obviously pro crypto, like Scott Besson, Howard Lutnick, the SEC chairman, he apparently was on the board of one crypto project, I think Reserve Protocol.
Yeah, and it's basically kind of like what they call like a Silicon Valley takeover of government.
Yes.
Which is incredible for tech and crypto, right?
Yeah.
And it's also, I mean, obviously for us, we're very opportunistic. Like we're just thinking like, this is amazing for our bags. But like, if you're thinking about the US, we're not Americans, right?
Yep.
How incredibly bullish this is for the US.
Yep.
Because you have businessmen who understand capital allocation, value creation,
Yep.
who are going to take over a government that by definition, most governments are not efficient with capital, right?
Yep.
And are not incentivized to be.
Yep.
So it's pretty incredible. Like, and there was people saying, oh yeah, look, everyone is a billionaire now, like in the government.
Yes.
But yeah, you want people to be a freaking billionaire and have made so much money that they know how to manage money, right? To manage your taxes money, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of logical.
Yep.
That was a biology argument, but it makes complete sense. Like, or do you want a average Joe who just wants to not work too much and or even if he works a lot, like this, the entrepreneur who made billions of dollars, is driven by something else than politics, right?
Yep.
Which
exactly.
That's what the fucking word needs to move forward, right?
Yes. I think context does matter. If obviously in a different situation where you have, let's say, a cronyism capture of the government by rich tycoon, that is not a good thing. But this is not the case.
It's not the case.
It's like they really felt like the country need to move in a different direction. There are just so much things that are moving in the wrong direction. They just felt the need to go and change it. Yeah. In fact, I think for such important position, they need to relinquish all their financial interests in the current company they manage. They need to, put it into blind trust, all this thing. They're actually sacrificing a lot more money, their financial gain they could have gotten if they're actually in the actual cabinet position. Like, I think Howard Lutnick, he probably need to sell his ownership in Cantor Fitzgerald to be able to serve as a commerce secretary. Yeah. Actually, from a pure financial perspective, you have less upside. Yeah.
You said we have 4 years of golden years. Right? Golden age.
For builders, in crypto, especially for US builders.
Which makes a lot of sense. But we are investors.
Yep.
And in investing, especially in crypto, there's these cycles, right?
Yep.
How do you play? Because now, if you listen to that, you look at what's going to happen, you're like, man, I need to be fully locked in for the next 4 years. Yes, we probably will be, right? But we also need to understand that there's these cycles and kind of play them the right way.
Yep.
At least not get destroyed like 2-3 years ago, right?
Yep.
Because no one wants that. And it's too painful. And we don't want that for the audience either.
Yep.
So how do you think there's still cycles to be played in crypto?
I think over the years, I have learned to be a lot more, not make a very strong and high confidence forecast more than 6 months out. I think that anything more than 6 months away, no one can forecast with a high degree of confidence. So my view on whether there will be a cycle or not, it actually doesn't matter as long as it's more than 6 months away. Yeah, that's what I think. Because I think that there's just so much path dependency right now for the industry and for crypto. There's so many things that can happen that can make a cycle happen in 1 year, in 6 months, or we get a prolonged cycle. Like, there's so many variables in place right now that you cannot even think that you would not even know this variable exists right now that can happen in 6 months. So any prediction with a strong level of confidence is just bullshit. I don't believe in it. But that said, I think that yes, cycles can still happen because human nature, we still try to push things to extreme. So for example, just using the current information we have, I think there's a few things. One is the MicroStrategy. He's obviously doing a huge play, issuing more shares, issuing more bonds, issuing more preferred shares to buy more Bitcoin. I think, we're probably going to need to spend too much time to explain the whole mechanism. But essentially, you can think of it as like a leverage play on Bitcoin. But he will not get liquidated. So that's one good thing about his mechanism. Like, he structured his whole approach in a way that he cannot get liquidated. It's not like, you have people doing leverage on like exchange, you can get liquidated. So that was one good thing. But if he pushed things to the extreme. The best analogy is, so for you that's not the best analogy, but like he pulled forward the demand of Bitcoin so much. Let's say Bitcoin will hit 200K without MicroStrategy in 2 years, but he make it happen in 1 year or 6 months. So he pulled forward all the demand that will take more time to materialize. So if we hit 200,000 in 6 months, but that is probably not where Bitcoin should be if you go through a more organic approach. It probably will take 2 to 3 years to get to 200K. So that create the volatility and cycle. Like if he buy Bitcoin all the way up to 200,000 and then there is not sufficient demand to follow up at 200,000, we will come down from 200,000 to 150 or even 100. So that will be a 50% drop for Bitcoin. So that is still possible, but it also might not happen. Like it seems like he is not able to run this as much as he like to, right? You know, he went from buying 5 billion of Bitcoin a week to buying 100 million of Bitcoin a week recently. So there's just so much path dependency here, and all these things is also very dependent on the macro condition. Does the inflation pick up, the interest rate, all this thing. So yeah, I think that cycle can still happen, and also very dependent on a few things as well.
So one of these things is Michael Saylor.
Yes.
The other one you said ETF inflows.
Yes.
That you track.
Yes, correct.
What does that tell you now?
I think now it's still a bit hard to tell because it's we just first week coming back from holidays, the year-end holidays. The flows are erratic. It seems to be, I would say, balanced. Like there are some months with 2 days with 900 million inflow, then you see some outflows. I would say it should continue to grow. I think last year it was Bitcoin ETF is the most successful ETF launch in history. I think we are expecting the AUM to double again this year. Yeah, I think the flows will be at least 1x to 2x of the last year from a net inflow perspective. And in terms of AUM, we should double. Yeah.
Do you still believe in the 4 years cycle?
I don't believe in a classic crypto 4-year cycle anymore.
Why?
Because the past 4-year cycle is mainly driven by the Bitcoin halving. But with every subsequent halving, especially the most recent one, the marginal decrease in the supply are becoming less and less significant to the liquidity and the trading volume of Bitcoin. So it should not have that much impact to the Bitcoin price anymore. So logically, that classic crypto 4-year cycle, even if it happened, is probably you just coincide with the traditional business cycle, not the initial crypto 4-year cycle.
So what matters more? You mentioned liquidity cycle, right?
Yes, I think that especially for Bitcoin, it has become a huge asset class that will be more and more influenced by the traditional market, with some idiosyncratic factor. Yeah.
Do you think that there is a big blow up this cycle?
I'm not seeing it right now. Yeah, I don't think we obviously constantly pay attention to this. I'm not seeing any of these right now. Yeah, not the obvious one. Yeah, there's some small risks here and there, but not a major one.
What are you thinking could be one of these?
I think the one that I mentioned is just really MicroStrategy. Like, and I don't think it will be like a blow up. It's just like he make Bitcoin price go up too fast, and we retrace after he can't buy at the same pace. Yeah, so that's not a blow up in some sense. It's just like a price overcorrecting. Yeah.
Let's end this great conversation with the advices to newbies. For the newcomers in crypto who want to make it, who should they not listen to?
I think this is really a first test of their skill. They need to be able to identify who they should not listen to and who they can listen to but still exercise their own judgment. That is one of the first skills you need to master to be good at crypto. Yeah. In terms of advice, I think that everyone need to play to their own strength. You know, trading in the trenches might not be the best way to spend your time. Sometimes it can be building, you know, working closely with some project, you know, working full-time in the space. There's many ways to make it in crypto. Yeah, there's no one single approach, like leverage trading, meme coins, whatever. Find the approach you are best at. Yeah, or like you don't even need to be an active trader. Like you can be a very good podcaster, a very good influence, and you can build like a business, or so there's many ways to make it in crypto.
I think one key component of what you said, right? Use your own judgment. There's this concept of like borrowing conviction.
Yep.
And it never fucking works.
Yep.
If I look at my own example, like what I became really good at this cycle is I don't listen to anyone. I mean, I will listen here and there, but I have my own thesis, and almost each of my bets with my own thesis worked out really well, except Gains Network, which did nothing. Which kind of went down 30%. But it had good fundamentals, but it was shit play. And Lido, good fundamentals, but shit play, right? So I'm not even feeling better because they had good fundamentals. I was just wrong, right? But all the rest worked out really well. The ones that didn't work out well was a super, I'm not going to give his name. I'm a bit mad at him, but it's fine. It's my own decision. A super kind of famous Twitter trader that everybody's like saying, oh, this guy is amazing. Like he gave me an entry on a meme coin very early on.
Okay.
And he was like, oh yeah, this thing is going to go up, blah, blah, blah. The KOLs will shield it, but I didn't put much in, but I was like, mega rug. Like I put 10K in and I have like $19, right? So like this is like literally terrible, right? But I'm thinking, why did it happen? I borrowed conviction of this dude. I mean, or maybe I got scammed. I don't know, right? That's another thing. The Gains one, I borrowed conviction from a guy who was very early in Nexo, very early in XRP. He was a mega Luna whale, had 250 mil, went to zero, but like he was very early. So, and he was like, this is the next Luna. So I put quite a lot in, but I borrowed conviction. I didn't even do a thesis for myself. And it was shit, right? Lido, I followed DJ Spartan. Borrowed conviction, right?
Yeah, we were also bullish on Lido.
And then I just realized at some point, but this is probably coming through like the cycles, right? Like, don't borrow conviction. If you're listening to someone, you're not gonna make money. It's not gonna work. Like it won't. But obviously it's harder. Like you need to make your own research, all that stuff. For me, the podcast is an incredible way to make research, right?
Yes.
Like I have like the founder in the space. I'm like, for example, Jeff, I was like, this is next level. Yuhu yesterday, I kind of knew it already. I felt it through a few factors, but like what they're building is next level. Like you can in the studio, you're like, wow. So that's my research. But like, the borrowed conviction is that it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Absolutely.
So you need to build your own thesis. Sorry to say that. The videos on YouTube promising you the next 100x or the next 1000x on AI agent is not going to work.
And let's just say, even if you get lucky with this borrow conviction once or twice, or even a few times, you're not going to be able to keep it if you are not able to get to a level to build your own conviction.
No, absolutely. Because you feel like you're special and you're actually not. Whereas if you build what we were talking about before, you build your own conviction, you don't borrow it. When you get massively destroyed, you're able to make it back. And then you kind of prove yourself. It doesn't matter what you prove to other people. No one cares about you anyway. But like, you prove to yourself, hey, I have the skills. So I'm here for a reason. Right? I always said after last cycle where I got massively destroyed on Luna, I was like, people are like, you're crazy, you're going back in, all in. I'm like, this is the ultimate test for me to see if I'm fucking dumb. If I deserve to play this game or not, right? That's it, right? Let's see. And like the ultimate test, okay, now I'm up a lot, but like the test is not that. Am I able to sell? Yes or not? Did I learn from not selling Luna, right? Did I learn? We'll see. So, don't borrow conviction.
Yes.
How should the crypto newbies filter the signal from the noise?
I think that most people what they say are really determined by the position they are in. So I think that's one good way to filter. Like, from his position, like, is it in his interest to say something like that, or actually felt that way? Usually, people say something that's beneficial to their position, not because they honestly really think in that manner.
That's such a good one. Basically, read between the lines, right?
Yes.
The problem is you don't understand the game that is played when you're new. But like for example, I have to say it because it pisses me off so much, but all this KOL game, right? Oh yeah, they post a chart, but like they receive 1% of the supply for free. They're not trading. You think they're a trader, but they're not. The guy who is a great investor, great trader, is you, and you're not doing all this shit online, right?
Yep.
You're not on YouTube with posting all these charts, and you're not on Twitter doing all that stuff, right? And that's the hard thing. It's reading between the lines, and there is very often or almost always a reason why someone posted something or why they did. I'm thinking about another example the other day. There's a guy who posted there's this Pengu chart, right?
Yep.
And people who have purchased Penguin, they got like a good airdrop. And like you post about it, right? So I post about, I post a lot about it.
Yep.
And then there's this guy who did a chart where he says, hey, look at the KOLs who are talking about Pengu at the bottom and regularly and at the top, right?
Yep.
And he posted the chart and with the profile picture of the different KOLs, and I'm one of them. And because my profile picture is orange, it's very you see it directly. So the first thing I see is I'm the only one who posted at the very top, right? Then I check the chart. I'm also one of the ones who posted at the very bottom. But then my process, which is exactly in line with what you're saying, my thought process is this is all data, like he's showing a chart.
Yep.
But he could be thinking about I don't want to piss Kevin off.
Yep.
So I'm gonna add no one is gonna check this data, right?
Yep.
So I'm gonna add these pictures at the top, but also at the bottom just to make sure Kevin is not pissed off, right?
Yep.
You always have to think about, is it the truth, which I don't even know myself where I posted, or is he like posting something for engagement, which a lot of people farm engagement, right?
Yep.
Or they're being paid to farm engagement, all that stuff because engagement and attention is money, right? Or do they want to not piss people off? So they have to be careful what they're saying. Even in this podcast, we have to be careful sometimes what we're saying, right? We talk about this. So like this is a very hard game, right? To filter the signal from the noise because there is vested interest and there's all that stuff. Right?
Yep. 100%.
Usually ask what's your biggest prediction for the next 12 months, but you said you think in 6-month terms. So what's your biggest prediction for this next 6 months?
You want me to give a price prediction or
Whatever you want.
I
mean, if you want to give us a price prediction, take it. People.
I don't think it's very productive. Prediction. I think the crypto adoption will happen even more like in a bigger scale than we expected. We're gonna see more nation state adopting crypto, Bitcoin as a national reserve.
Do you have some guesses on who it is or who it might be? Like big countries or nation states, or like smaller ones like where there's Salvador and.
I think those with big sovereign wealth fund and so Middle East, some part of Asia.
Some part of Asia we're in. Sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Arthur. That was an amazing conversation as usual. Thank you so much for being like so humble, open, and candid.
Thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure, as always.
Thanks.